Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back with another animation analysis video, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrath of the Dragon weekend. That is right, this entire weekend we are going to be taking a look at the past Wrath of the Dragon super attacks in honor of the upcoming New Year's Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Hirudegarn units. Of course, since we are tackling every single day of the weekend, we are first today going to take a look at the boy AGL Tapion. Tomorrow we'll be taking a look at the GOAT himself. He better get an easy A, please. I will be so sad if he doesn't tech Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And on the final day, we will be taking a look at LR Tapion. I could have done Tapion back to back, but like, I kind of wanted to put Goku in the middle, you know, the boy, the king. He had to be on Saturday, the best day of the weekend, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, today we're going to be taking a look at AGL Tapion. Obviously, this guy is the oldest of these units, being the same age as Goku. I actually completely forgot that these units came out on the exact same day because they're part of the same celebration. Whoops. But obviously, Hirudegarn and Tapion here are from the 19th of December, 2017. I still can't believe that that's like 5 years ago. To the day that I'm recording this video, actually. That's kind of wild to think about, to be 100% honest with you. But, of course, with this guy being pretty old, and as per usual, with my usual unit of measure when it comes to these older SAs, I always like to take a look at Metal Cooler's release date, because he is the unit that I pretty much consider the newest oldest unit with modern animations, right? He's kind of the one that started it all in my eyes. So I usually use him as a way to kind of gauge what we're going to be looking at when it comes to these older animations. And obviously this guy came out in October of 2018, and of course with Tapion he came out almost a full year before that, right? Give or take a couple of months. So obviously with these animations, they are going to be quite old. So let's see what we have to take a look at here. For the actual regular essay, we are going to be taking a look at the Dokkan World Showcase, because I couldn't find anybody who just uploaded the essay raw, and then we'll take a look at the actual video that I yoinked from all those years ago from Dokkan's Twitter account, which only has the transformation and Hirudegarn's animation. So this will be really interesting to see from the perspective of obviously being able to update these, because of course Hirudegarn's animations are super simple and it is going to be a Hirudegarn unit, right? So let's take a look at Tapion's animation first, and then of course we'll look at it in slow speed in a minute, right? Obviously it is a super simple animation, right? It is nothing too crazy, and it pretty much fits for the time that it came out, right? Kind of to be expected. For the transformation animation, right, I actually was pretty impressed with this when it came out. Now obviously bear in mind this was 2017 Dokkan, so of course even just seeing anything like this was like, whoa, holy cow, that looks so cool. And at the time it was super exciting, honestly, because not only was it, oh wow, that Dokkan Twitter video, that's another interesting thing about those Dokkan Twitter videos, they are really low quality compared to the quality that we get nowadays that they post on Twitter. They always did this aspect ratio, and a lot of the time they showed the like actual collecting the key, whereas they literally do not do that at all right now, or at all right now. They don't do that anymore, rather. And not to mention the videos were a lot lower quality. But to be fair, Dokkan also wasn't as big of a game as it is now. Regardless though, obviously with the transformed Hirudegarn animation, it is nothing crazy. It is quite literally just a mouth beam with some fire on the end, right? So I am telling you right now, the Hirudegarn animations that we are going to be getting for the brand new Hirudegarn are obviously gonna be leagues and miles better than this. Obviously some of the actual attacks that he does in the anime, which to be fair is just realistically destroying a bunch of stuff, right, is gonna look much better than this. But let's still take a look at it just from, of course, a very, very you know, kind of basic perspective here, I suppose. taking a look at what they can improve on. And it will also be interesting when we eventually get to the Tapion and Minosha LR video, obviously how much they improved upon this animation as well, because I've somehow never done an animation analysis video on them. But regardless though, for Tapion himself, when it comes to his actual super attack, you have a very basic Dokkan power up here, right, with the generic aura effect as well. Of course, the EZA attached to the boy, because this video is from when he EZA'd. And when it comes to the actual attack, right, again, very, very simple. Let me go back here. I'm losing my place in the video. It's hard to navigate through a 10-minute video to find the one essay that I'm looking for, rather than the usual, like, 1 to 2 minute videos that we have to take a look at, right? And to be fair, Dokkan did do this a lot, obviously, back then, because, of course, you know, some characters did have their own colored auras, right, where they made ones that are a little closer to Super Saiyan, or, you know, whatever the case was. But obviously, this is just kind of like the generic power-up aura. So it is crazy, honestly, to see that even from, like, the jump of this guy to LR Tapion and Minosha, how accurate the animations are to the anime compared to back then, where this just felt like more like characters in a game rather than recreating the scene from the movie or the show. But with Tapion, we have a little bit of a jump, which I will say, this is pretty cool, right? This is something that I feel like didn't really even need to be included, but the fact that they have this little thing down here, right, which is the little, like, poing, the little, like, bounce sort of thing, right, to kind of really emphasize that Tapion is jumping off the ground. I think that is really cool. Obviously, the generic black background that Dokkan was known for this time. And I will say, I really like the effect of the sword kind of having this little bit of like a shine, a gleam, I don't even know what you would call this, just like a streak of light kind of. It is cool too. The movement they do a really good job on for this, obviously, just being a static PNG. Right, obviously when he's jumping forward, he jumps really close to the end, and then moves back a little bit again, and then they really have him spring forward, right? To really kind of make it look like he's jumping towards the enemy. And then, of course, coming up from the back, right, you have the slash, which I always thought that this animation was pretty cool. Again, it's super simple, but they have a little, like, white fade to kind of cut in between Tapion just, like, charging forward, basically, and then, of course, basically arriving at the location of the enemy. And I do believe, yeah, even during this time, they were still kind of cooking on these little sword effects, right, where the screen was all black and then they'd have a slash effect. So obviously then they don't have to animate the character slashing, but it still looks really cool, right? I always like this little bit at the end too, where you have this little, like, blue line that's obviously supposed to represent, like, the slash, so it's super powerful. The little sparkles that come off of Tapion as well, a little touch that is very nice, and of course the white kind of emanating off. This explosion is kind of weird though, because, like, obviously, why does he explode, I guess, right? Like, that part is definitely a little bit weird, right? Obviously going here, you do see the slash, which is obviously from the sword, but then it's like a blue explosion of light. I guess it's just supposed to be light rather than like an actual explosion, but it definitely kind of looks like a Kamehameha explosion, so it is kind of funny in that regard. But for how simple animations were at the time, I think that one was actually pretty good, right? Again, 2017 Dokkan essay, you know, made sense for it to look like that, and I think for the time it was very good. Obviously, very much so improved on nowadays. But let's go ahead and take a look now at the transformation animation for Tapion, technically for Hirudegarn here. And then we'll look at his essay. Honestly, the transformation is something that I actually really remember, like I said, being pretty impressed with at the time, because it's not even a complicated animation. It's just cool to look at, right? So obviously, you have the classic Dokkan transformation cut in, right? You have Hirudegarn kind of appearing in the background, which I really like this kind of juxtaposition here, using big boy words today, where obviously you have Tapion in the front, you know, screaming in pain, and you kind of have like the shadow or like the ghost of Hirudegarn, right? Like his image kind of imprinting in the background, like saying, "Oh, I'm coming, baby. I'm on my way." So very, very cool, and I like the obviously little effect that they use to kind of emphasize that as well. But then, of course, you have this very nice anime-esque blue background, right, with it kind of going up, and very, very cool. Again, This is not like a crazy animation. It is literally basically just this PNG that's smeared, which looks really cool. I always like the way that this looks. Obviously, it's supposed to be like Tapion kind of disintegrating into Hirudegarn. And they have these little effects kind of all throughout, right? You can see the little colors kind of being thrown about everywhere here, right? Which is pretty cool, right? And obviously gives a good kind of impression that he's sort of deteriorating. Again, because this video is so low quality, unfortunately, you're going to get a couple of shots like this where it's like on the screen. But unfortunately, it's just what we're working with because obviously old essay, right? But obviously, it is cool that they kind of have the color change because not only is that just a very anime-esque thing, but obviously that's kind of what happens in the movie. Like the, oh, you know, type of moment in anime, right? Very, very cool. And I definitely like the way they did this. They obviously have the little white kind of like flash of light go up the screen. And this animation, honestly, for 2017 is quite impressive. It's really nothing crazy, I guess. It's just a couple of PNGs that are like tilted kind of going in. But I always thought that that looked pretty good with them kind of swirling in. I think they did a good job with that. And then, of course, you have the like portal basically open up. I like the little electricity effects. I've never noticed that the background flashes as well. That's a really cool effect. You have the electricity obviously coming out. And this is a cool way to do it because obviously at the time, right, they couldn't animate Hirudegarn like coming out of the portal basically. I'm just going to call it a portal. I don't think that's like technically what it is, but just for simplicity's sake. Obviously, at the time, they did not have the means to animate the boy kind of coming out of that. So, they do a good job with the lightning then kind of blackening the screen. And then, of course, you get that same little appearance of Hirudegarn. I love that they have his eyes glow as well. I think that's a nice little touch there for sure. And then the white covers the screen to then have him appear completely, right? With a little bit of electricity. And they have his eyes glow once again towards the end here. So, really, really cool, honestly. I really, really like this animation, especially, again, for 2017, right? Before, like, the real modern animation started kicking up. I think they did a very good job for this transformation. I'd even venture to say that I think his transformation is his best animation, which, I mean, I guess maybe isn't hard to beat considering the animations at play. And again, like, Super Attacks were super simple at the time. I mean, even Super Saiyan 3 Goku's essay having that little bit at the end, which obviously we'll take a look at in tomorrow's video, that was even really impressive for the time, at least for me personally. So I think they did a really good job with this. I will say it will be very, very interesting to see how they update this, or if they even include this in the new animations, because obviously the new character is just Hirudegarn, right? There's no Tapion in the card art, right? There's no Tapion in the SSR art. It's not going to be a transforming Tapion or anything like that, right? So it will be interesting to see if they incorporate this whole like sequence here of Tapion kind of like getting absorbed into Hirudegarn. It would actually be really cool if this was like Hirudegarn's intro animation, right? Where Tapion is like, oh, and then he, you know, turns into Hirudegarn like that. That would be a cool way to just kind of give a little nod to Tapion and include him in there, while also, you know, like representing the scene in the card. I know that I'm pretty sure, because obviously, you know, it's going to be Dragon Fist Goku. I guess it's maybe supposed to be end of movie Hirudegarn, but obviously you want to represent the whole film. So that will be really cool if we have an updated version of this animation as basically this guy's intro. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, moving on to the super attack, again, this is nothing too crazy, right? Again, it is a very, very old Dokkan essay, so it... Did I not hit play? Okay, I guess it just took a second. You obviously have the boy charging up, right? You have these little generic, like, kind of just charging energy circle effects, right? That they used a lot for a bunch of different things back then. He looks like he has a giant chin. I know it's extremely blurry because obviously, again, old essay. But my boy kind of looking like the Crimson Chin out here. No cap. But we have the card art obviously appear on the screen. And then after that, you have him kind of resume from the same pose, except the mouth is glowing. It's funny enough, I never noticed how erratic that is. Look at how, like, crazy the ball kind of moves around there. Interesting. But they do a pretty cool thing here where they actually do cover the screen with this white flash, right? So that you don't actually just see the PNG change, which is awesome because even some modern Dokkan animations do that, where they just are like, oh, boop, boop, between the pose change. And they don't even have any, like, thing to mask it or just try and make it look like a coherent animation. I will say that is one thing about older Dokkan essays. Maybe it's just because you're obviously not looking at them from the perspective of anime accuracy as much, or because they're not as, you know, like close to the anime's, you know, like style. It's a lot harder to notice those kind of like animation inconsistencies in the older stuff. But I swear when going back at a bunch of these older animations, I swear they just do a better job of transitioning between scenes sometimes. It's really interesting. But anyway, obviously the white flash leads into the beam coming out of Hirudegarn's mouth with the very cool fire effect. Obviously, that is, you know, the attack that Hirudegarn uses, so it is pretty cool, and obviously associated with fire a lot, considering he's, you know, basically burning down the city. But I love the way that they have this attack kind of linger on the screen, and they really lean into that fire effect. Like, the effect on screen looks awesome, right? They do a really good job of kind of having it sit there for a moment to really emphasize, you know, how hot it's burning. And again, very cool little bit of transition there, with obviously having the white kind of flash on the screen, where it's almost like you get engulfed in the fire before seeing it come from the side. And the rock effect is pretty cool too, kind of having it move there. You can see it is still definitely a little bit wonky, because it is like not a static PNG obviously, but it is kind of definitely formed to the end of it, and then they just sort of tilt it the other way to match with it hitting the enemy character. But I still think it looks pretty good, and obviously moving so fast in the full motion that it does move, it's not really that noticeable anyway. But yeah, really, really cool here. And then once it actually hits the enemy, it is pretty cool, because not only do you have the explosion, but I never really noticed this before. It's kind of interesting. I don't remember this looking like this in the movie. I did just re-watch Wrath of the Dragon like the other day when this got announced for New Year's, right? I do not really remember the attack kind of transitioning into this. My guess is this is them trying to like have the beam remain on the screen, but they couldn't like make it look good in it changing directions. So they just kind of have the beam transition into this other like explosion effect, or maybe this is something else. You can let me know in the comments if I'm missing what this is specifically supposed to be. It's just kind of funny that like the beam almost like pans across the screen like this, right, that's coming out of Hirudegarn's mouth, and then it almost acts as a transition to the background, which I actually think is really cool. And again, for this time, right, they're working with what they got to do what they got to do. It's pretty cool. So obviously you have a little bit of the explosion with kind of like the rings of fire going around it, which looks really good too. And then of course the generic guy getting hit in Dokkan effect, right? Followed by a couple of explosions at the end. Some basically generic stuff. But it is cool that they added a little bit of fire at the end. I never actually really noticed that before. Maybe I've just never KO'd with this guy, but it's cool that that little bit of fire kind of remains on the screen. It's not animated or anything when it's in the KO screen. It is animated obviously before that when we are here, but still pretty cool. Obviously very much so leaning into that fire, you know, sort of aesthetic and, you know, attack that he does. So when it comes to the new Hirudegarn, obviously this bad boy is gonna be a lot better looking than this guy, right? Obviously. And not to mention, he'll probably have quite a few more attacks, right? It'll be interesting to see if they give this guy like an active skill, or if they give him some kind of standby or something like that, right? Because obviously, I mean, like, his voice lines for an active skill would just be, "Grah!" you know, or something like that. Unless they somehow, like, include Hoy, right, the guy in the movie who tries to summon him, the evil guy who they're, you know, they basically like he gets the Z fighters to release Tapion basically, and then obviously that, you know, inadvertently ends up releasing Hirudegarn. So maybe they like include him, and then he ends up being like the active skill voice or something like that. But it'll be very interesting to see what they do for that. I mean, it's pretty clear that Goku's essay or active skill will probably be the Dragon Fist, but he does enough attacks that they could definitely make an essay be something different, have the Dragon Fist be voiced, which is probably what they'll do. But with Hirudegarn, it'll be really interesting to see what other animations they give him. But I know for a fact that even if they do include this, there's so many other attacks that he does in the movie that they can definitely have a lot more to work with, you know, when it comes to actually making his animation. So it'll be very interesting to see as well. You know, on that card art, they also showed it was like the Hirudegarn face that kind of looks more like a skull before he basically like emerges like a butterfly from the little cocoon thing that happens in the movie, which obviously is this one. So Maybe that one will just be the TUR. Maybe he'll be a transforming Hirudegarn. That would also be pretty cool too. But we will have to see. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on this unit's super attacks in the comments section below. Again, keep in mind, I am doing one of these videos every single weekend in honor of the upcoming Wrath of the Dragon celebration. I really, really like the movie. Even rewatching it recently, I was like, yeah, it's really sick. It's not like, it's definitely not my favorite Z movie. I think for me, that might be BoJack Unbound or Fusion Reborn, honestly. But this is definitely like top 5 easy. And also being a Super Saiyan 3 fanboy, obviously it gets an easy in because of that too. So let me know if you are excited for the upcoming New Year's units. And let me know what you think Hirudegarn's animations will be for sure. And with all that being said, I will catch you in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.